And today we have the Aizlewoods, Greg and Narelle. I'd like to tell you all that they're on Sunday morning at 3 a.m. They graciously agreed to do this, to get up in the middle of the night to entertain us. So we greatly appreciate that. And even though there's not much feedback on these Zoom recordings, and I think the speakers tend to get a bit of emptiness at the end of the talk when there's no applause or, you know, that there are message sent, but it's not quite the same thing. We really mean to ask, to tell you both, Greg and Narelle, that we do appreciate your willingness to do this. Two great Bromeliad enthusiasts for many years. They've attended all of the big meetings, both for WBC as well as other large Bromeliad meetings throughout the world, particularly in Australasia. And they were instrumental, I believe, in the last large meeting that occurred before COVID in November 2019, held on the Gold Coast of Australia. They have participated in so many of these meetings. They have traveled worldwide, and they've been here to San Diego on numerous occasions. On some of them, in fact, they have met with John Arden, and those interactions have been very fruitful because some of the seeds that he has gained from John have become real plants. And you're going to hear about things like that throughout the talk, but many other things as well. Two hardworking, enthusiastic Bromeliad enthusiasts. And I invite us all to welcome both Greg and Narelle.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very, very much. I didn't know, I thought for a minute there that you weren't talking about us, you were talking about someone else, but so thank you. And thank you to all of your society for inviting us here to actually join your meeting. Thank you again. We go down here. Has everybody got that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll get started. This is basically Narelle and our home. We'd look across from our house across a man-made lake. This is more as the sun rising over the lake on an early winter's morning. Our base, I don't know whether Andrew's related a lot of the information about where we actually live. We live at a small fishing village. It's halfway between the Brisbane rather, and the Gold Coast. We're right on the coast, so our plants enjoy a fairly good climate. Average temperatures are between, well, we don't really have a winter. We call it winter, but you know, as we said once before, our winter this year was on Wednesday. It was Wednesday in July. It was the coldest day we had. And I think it got down to about 4 or 5 degrees. So we don't really experience winter, but our maximums can get up to 35 and sometimes into the 40s. So that basically gives you an idea of where we are and our climate. We're surrounded by sugarcane. So we'll just start off and we'll just run round the house. We only have a normal house block, which is probably quarter acre. Now this is looking at the back.
My camera and sound are off.
You're right. So this is just looking at the back of the house. You can see that in the foreground there, we've got Alcantaraeas, Ichmea blanchettiana.
And the sugar cane.
and the sugar cane at the back over here. It backs right up into our place. This is our vegetable garden. We're Keegan gardeners in that end. And the orange tree at the back provides us with heaps of oranges and mandarins. This is looking from that same aspect, but just around a little bit to the left. This item here, this item here is a tank. It's our water tank, our major. That's our water supply. We don't have town water. We live on away from more or less the town, so we have to rely on our own tanks.
That tank there is a.
And the little tank here, that's just an auxiliary that we use for the gardens. Up the top here, we have, this is where most of the tillandsias are kept. This is a quick view. A lot of seedlings. I've been growing a lot of seed. A lot of the seed was supplied by Lydia Corres and Eric Guda. These are all seedlings here, all different species of tillandsias. My main interest now are in the red Brazilians, the little Brazilian ones, mainly because they're becoming very, very extinct, or not extinct, but they're becoming very rare. And in habitat, we believe that the habitats are starting to be pillaged. So we're trying actually to get a stock going so that we can send some seed back to Brazil to get them started again. This is a seedling area. Basic, once I graze the seedlings on those fly screens, then I actually put them out the back here and they grow on out the back. This is looking up. We're looking to the front of the house now. It's my other enjoyment is growing billbergias and hybridizing. Main interest in the hybridizing of billbergias has been mainly breeding, just looking at different aspects of how the different plants accept pollen, how they don't accept pollen, they accept their own pollen, and just trying to trick them into doing other things that they don't like to do. Once again, that's our aspect from the front. Enjoy it. It's a beautiful little spot we have, and we're very, very lucky. Looking across the front of the house now, there's a small garden here with mainly sun-hardened stuff. A lot of the sun-hardened Variegas and Alcantaras.
Don't even cable. Let's go.
Everybody right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is looking into the main part of our garden on the right. If you look from the front of the house, on the right-hand side of it is a garden all the way through. Shade cloth over the 70% shade cloth.
This is basically Narelle's garden.
Yeah, and this is Narelle's garden. This is the part that Narelle looks after. So I'll hand over to her and she can actually talk you through.
We sort of have two different aspects of the garden. Greg does the tillandsias mainly, and I don't work with the tillandsias or the billbergias. I don't touch them. But on the other side, we had started originally with foliage variegas. And then, like everybody else, we started to buy everything that was available. And we went from billbergias to eckmeres to everything. We had a good collection of most genera. But we started with the foliage variegas. Our first plant that we ever bought was a Varesia hieroglyphica. And we've gone full circle through all of the prickles. And I myself have come back to the foliage variegas. So we do have a lot of John stuff in here. And that one in the foreground is a tillandsia that we got from John, and it's called Twin Brother, and it's flowering for us. We've got five big plants there, probably a metre or more across. Yeah, the bloom's just coming out on there now. So
This is basically just looking from that plant along to the back of the house now. This is the one on the photograph on the left. The photograph on the right is, because I was so narrow, I put two together. This is actually the one on the right here is basically back on the left-hand side of the house, and that's mainly tillandsias through there. But the main area we're concentrating on now is this area of Narelles.
yeah, we've got billbergias, mainly billbergias down there. It looks busy, but we are in the process of tidying it up, and it actually is probably where we want it to be. A lot of billbergias in there, a lot of John Arden stuff in there. That's just a collection of John's. Doesn't really do them justice there because this photo was taken early in the morning, and we have a automatic watering system going through there, so it shoots off every morning. But yeah, we're really pleased with the collection of plants that we've got from John. And this is just leading back down the path to the rear of the house. It's basically, this garden is on the, as you look at the house, it's on the right-hand side, and all of Greg's tillandsias are on the left-hand side of the house. So we really only get together for morning tea. Oh yes, there are a few little tillandsias that go sneaking in there. This was a little area that our granddaughter said she wanted a nice quiet spot to sit and do her homework. Well, as you can see, a little quiet spot's been taken over by tillandsias, but we can clear it off and have a little quiet spot for her to do her homework there.
We just look at some of the plants now that we actually have got in the garden, and that actually really enjoy. This is at the back of the house near the sugar cane. The only problem we have at the back here with these plants is the sugar cane, as you know, harbours mealybug, and these plants here, it's a continual problem all the time. But we're actually at it and try and keep the mealybug out. These are different alcantaras.
We have names on there.
There was names on that one. It's actually
Aurora.
Aurora. Does the name appear on your screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
That one there is Alcantara extensa. This is a particularly interesting clone that I think it came from John Catlin originally, and he got it from Western Australia. But the actual, if you have a look at the leaves, the coloration on the leaves, I don't know whether you guys grow them over there, but it's very, very intense, and it goes nearly black in really good sunlight. Should be vinicolor, I think. No, it's an Imperialis hybrid. Odorata. That's a pretty disappointing photo of Odorata. Do you guys grow these over there, Andrew?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, we do, indeed. And we don't have that one, though.
Odorata.
I haven't seen it.
It's
Yeah.
quite a thin leaf variety.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
thin
that
leafed and it's very, very white, nearly white.
With the skirting.
Yeah, with all the skirting.
We grow some of those in Florida, Odorata.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
There's Scott. Hi, Scott.
How you going, Scott?
Mine's
Good.
blooming at the moment. My odorata, it's blooming.
Mine
Is
too.
Okay. This is one that I think it was, yeah, that one comes from, I think Chester made this one. They call it pitta. I won't go into the name, but I think some of you probably know what it means.
P-I-T-A.
This is one that Melissa and
Robert.
Robert Dilling actually developed here in Australia, called Silver Plum. It's a beautiful thing. Now that's a vinny colour, I think. Yep. I put the names on these, but the screen, on our screen here, those names have been blotted out. That one there.
We can see them, John, no problem.
Okay.
Oh, you can see the names on them, Andrew?
Yes, we can.
Mhm.
Oh, great.
What's that one? Mellow yellow?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of Bruce Dunstan's. I think Bruce did a lot of work with these. And I'm not sure whether you've had Bruce on as a guest. I think he was with another, yeah. But yeah, he did a lot of work with those. This on the left-hand side here, this is a geniculata starting to flower that we have in the garden. We believe it's geniculata, it's keyed out to it, but the inflorescence doesn't always doesn't always bloom true for us here. On the right there, that's a twin brother coming into flower.
That's one of John Arden's hybrids. That was the twin brother that you saw originally with the big red spike coming out from it. That one there.
I think a lot of people have that in California. Now we're going to go on to some billbergias. The names of these will be up the top. Unfortunately, I put them in there, but I can't see them over here.
Bob crossed with Dippin' Dots.
Dippin' Dots, yeah, that's Bob. These are most of these plants were all procured from Michael's Bromeliads in Florida, and when I've got them back here, I've had a really good lot of fun with these guys. Some of them will accept their own pollen, some won't, and just trying to get them so that they would accept the pollen was a real challenge. So I've actually, later on, we'll look at, there's Dippin' Dots cross Bob. That's around the other way. But there's a lot of variation in the colour and the actual colours that are in the inflorescence. So Hallelujah crossed Alfonsi, I think.
Get Andrew to go.
It says Billbergia AFT crossed Hal and
Oh, right. It's
Billbergia
Afterglow crossed Hallelujah.
Oh, hallelujah. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Bill's Giant crossed with VDM. And
Yeah. That VDM is basically Vittata Dominguez Martins. I use that a lot. A lot of people, it's been used to death, I think, over the years. But it still produces some really good variations in plants. I find that there's a lot of incomplete dominance with Vittata Dominguez Martins. Sometimes it will come through very strong, sometimes it comes through weak, and it varies throughout a batch of seedlings. That's the inflorescence from that. It's a pretty thing. It's more Vittata, I think. This is a Mina variety viridis. It's actually a hybrid, but it actually originally come from a lady who collected it at an orchid conference, apparently, many, many moons ago. But it's a beautiful thing. And the closest we can key it out to is it's an Amina variety viridis. Whether it's a hybrid or not, we're not sure. Bill's Giant Cross Fatata, that's Alan Buttery. Once again, you can see the Fatata Dominguez Martins in there, but the height from Bill's Giant comes through. But once again, in the inflorescence, we're looking more Fatata Dominguez Martins.
Can I just add something here? Now, some of these plants have got a funny name. It's called Alan Buttery. Now, I don't know if some of you know that Greg is a Vietnam vet, and this is actually a man's name who's passed away. When he went in, when he went into the Air Force, his intake was the squirrels. So we're actually a couple of squirrels, and we have our squirrels reunion from time to time. And Greg has gone and made these plants, and when this person passes away, he will get one of these plants to the family. He will name it after the guy that's passed away. I've said for years that I should do an article for the BSI on this,
Sure.
and I will get round to doing it one day. But Alan Buttery actually is someone that was in Greg's squirrel intake when they all had different names, but in his intake and he's passed away. So if you see a name on there, that is the hybrid that it was made from, but it's called and registered as Alan Buttery. He has registered a lot of these names. So if you see like a man's name, you'll know that that is one of his squirrels that has passed away. And then we get this plant to the family in Australia. If they're in Queensland or New South Wales, we'll try to deliver them. If they're too far away, we'll put them in the post, or we'll get someone else to get them to them. So if you see like a strange name like that, that's why that name is on there, an Alan Buttery.
Mark Harris, he was another. A lot of these guys passed away too early. They were very, very young. Mark was only probably 28, 29. This is my favourite plant and always has been. I always remember Joyce Bem's entry in the 06 conference
San
at San Diego. And I grew one very, very similar. And I've always had a soft spot for
Well,
it.
better say what it is. Oh, they've got a name on it there.
Yeah.
Alfonso Johannes.
There's Dennis Russell, who's only recently passed away, but that's another Golden Joy cross Fatata Dominguez Martins. Golden Joy was a plant that was actually developed here in Australia by Bill Morris. Bill Morris, very, very early. I think Bill's trustee on the BSI, and he did a lot of work early on. And one of his plants was Golden Joy. Very, very good to use in hybrids. Gives you a lot of variety. This is another one that I will use a lot of pollen from Alfonso Johannes in some crosses. Dual purpose, I find in plants that I don't know whether I won't go into it because it gets messy, but I use it in a lot of crosses, and it sometimes takes, sometimes it triggers the plant to actually self, because I think the pollen grains are too big to actually grow, but they actually trigger the plant into accepting its own pollen. Nice colours in that. I can't see the actual name on that one on the left, but I think that's another.
Bob by Dippin' Dots.
Dippin' Dots. Yeah, Bob by Dippin' Dots.
Both of those plants were, both of those plants were beetles plants, but they're very, very, very good in crosses because you get a lot of variation in the actual what they produce. I've used those a lot. The one on the right, I haven't got the name for that, but
feels giant with,
Batata dominguez.
yes,
Yeah, just another variation. That plant doesn't show a lot because there's a lot of yellow in it. But once again, we've got that the same sort of inflorescence. The Blake Fall. I remember, I think two issues ago in the BSI journal, the inflorescence, the flower from this was on the front page. Once again, it's Batata dominguez martins, but there's the variety. The reason why I kept a lot, even though the shape of the major plant or the major shape of the plant is the same and the colorations vary slightly. There's a lot of variation in the inflorescence, mainly in the color of the bracts, the color of the sepals, petals, and also the ovaries. That's the flower from it. That's a really nice flower. Subtle, very, very subtle colors, pastels. Back to bob and dip and dots, just giving you variations on it. A lot of variety of colors in that. That's the flower from it. Once again, George Jubicus. George was another friend of ours. And once again, I think that's there's Batata dominguez martins in there, but it's very, very vivid colors. Another variation on that same, but different in the shape of the plant and also coloration. This is Golden Joy and Groovy. Groovy was another one of Don Beetle's, and it's very, very good too. I find it's a very, very good for hybrids. Just in the variation of color. This one really struck me. The next slide, the colors that are in that flower. You know, I've never ever seen colors like that before, and I haven't seen since. But there's blacks and yellows, which are very, very dark colors. These are using Hallelujah and Alfonsi now.
No, yeah, that one there's Golden Joy Groovy.
Yeah, Golden Joy Groovy. There's a lot of variation in them. You can see a little bit of Alfonsi harness in the one on the right with the little kick in the leaf, but most of it, and that actually was the second time that I tried the cross. I used Alfonsi there to try and get Hallelujah to self, because I'd never had any success. Every time I tried to self it, it wouldn't self. I couldn't get seed to set. So I used Alfonsi harness pollen to get the actual fluid started on the stigma so that I could actually put its own pollen on there, because when I put the pollen on it, I wouldn't get any honeydew. But when I used Alfonsi harness, I did. I got honeydew there, and I thought, right, so now it's ripe, ready to go. And I put it put its own pollen on there, and it took. But the Alfonsi harness pollen is big and chunky, so it couldn't actually get down into the actual stigma to send the pollen tube down, but it sent its own. So that's the way I actually tricked it into taking its own pollen. There's a cutie. It doesn't grow. It's another one of Batata dominguez martins, but it's very, very short. That wouldn't grow more than about 8 inches high. Very short.
Greg's actually growing a lot smaller billbergias, and up to a point we were sending some to Japan. The Japanese absolutely loved the little ones that probably only got 6 or 8 inches high. Yeah, we haven't sent to Japan for quite a while now. I might point out that Greg's first love was billbergias. When I met him, he had no idea what a bromeliad was, and he got very involved with the billbergias long before he got on into the tillandsias, but billbergias was his first love.
Peter Caudwell.
Right, yeah, yep. Another guy taken too early. Lovely flowers in this one. It's a gorgeous thing. Once again, the variation just in the colours and the inflorescence. This is another one with
What
it's
name?
Hallelujah.
What name?
Hallelujah
PJ
crossed
Waters.
Alphonse. Sorry? PJ Waters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually Hallelujah crossed with Alfonsi. Once again, this is where I got Hallelujah to self. And some of the self, some of the Hallelujah traits come out in that. Once again, just the variations in the colours and the inflorescence. Now onto the guzzies. We don't grow a great deal of Guzmanias, but Nell enjoys growing them. That's a Gisela variegata, I think.
Mm.
That's an absolute gorgeous plant.
Guzmania lingulata with Guzmania blasii.
Lassie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lassie.
Blasii.
Yeah. That's Caroline.
Yeah.
Tasmania Caroline.
Yep.
And we're basically this back in the nidulariums.
We used to have quite a good collection of nidulariums, but over time things have to move in the garden. And whilst we still do have some, you'll find over here that a lot of people don't actually grow too many nidulariums. And if they do, there hasn't been a lot of work done with nidulariums. So you just find that they're growing the same old ones that have been around for a long, long time. There's sort of not been anything done with hybridizing nidulariums, but I just think they're really, really smart looking plants.
Yeah.
A few crypts.
Red Eye Gravy.
Yep. That was one of Carol Rickmeyer's. I think I got that from her.
At one of the conferences.
Yeah, that was it. I think that was New Orleans. We got that from Carol. And our Ripple Fudge, that actually come into Australia through Grace Good from I can't think of his first name, Whitman. Yeah. But anyhow, Grace got that into Australia. And that's one that's named after a lady here, Jean Nicol. Now into the tillandsias. I grow the tillandsias, a lot of my tillandsias on old fly screens so that I can move them around and get and expose them to more sun. In the background there, you can see we have a couple of cycads that have we're going to have to do something with shortly because they're starting to take over. They grow a lot quicker down here where we are because our water table's probably only down 19 feet, I think, and they just send down a taproot straight down. And they haven't been in there very, very long, probably about 10 years.
2000 they went in,
Yeah,
20 years.
probably 20 years now, yeah. But they're huge. So we have to look at getting rid of them soon. Some of the ionanthus, if you we find in the winter, we put them out in the winter sun like they have in Mexico. They actually come and we get the really good color out of them. The color seems to saturate. Hazelnuts, it's a German variety of tillandsia.
Greg always thought it was nuts.
Yeah. hence the correction on the name. That's yeah, a Honduran form. Come from Dennis Cathcart. Another clump. That's a clump of a Guatemalan form, I believe. a lot of the Guatemalan stuff we get was imported in through a firm in Melbourne called Collector's Corner. Chris Larson, who I think most of you would know, he actually works for them, and we get a lot of plants that have been were imported at the time, used to come from Collector's Corner.
When we imported, we used to use quarantine houses here in Queensland. The Olive Branch, Lennon Olive Trevor had a big quarantine house, and there was different quarantine stations throughout Queensland, but they've all been closed down now. And I believe there's only the one quarantine station in Victoria. Is that correct? That we can actually bring plants back in through, which completely negates the idea of us bringing plants back anymore, because Victoria is 1,800 kilometres away. So for us to import and have them in a house in an import quarantine station in Victoria is just not feasible for us to do that anymore. So we actually haven't imported plants from the States for quite a while now.
Why?
Lovely colour in them. This is winter colour. A couple of different clones of pink champagne. I'm not sure what bound to be in over there, but I don't know whether you guys have issues with the colour in pink champagne, but we do. It varies from year to year. That's Renat. I'm not sure whether they call that variegated or marginated. I think there's a couple of different forms of it. It colours up nicely. This was a plant that we got from John Arden. He had it as rubra, and the plant on the right is the actual form that when we got it from him, that was the form that it used to show. But as you can see on the left, you get every now and again, you'll get this spiral form that comes. It doesn't last more than 1 year or 2 years, but every now and again, it'll come out as a pup. That's Tillandsia stricta. Lovely little plant. Grows a lot of people grow it here in Australia. This is another one called Tall Velvet that I believe originally come from Tillandsias International. These are some seedlings that I've raised of these. This is an F2 of pink champagne, and you can see the colour variation there. There's more of them, different colours. This is another seedling that it's more as like it's a mini pink Tillandsia that is it's really small, but it's a Mexican, come out of a bunch of seedlings that I did. This one here is another one that came from a bunch of seedlings, but it looks a lot like the form now that they're calling Elba. I think some people have got White Knight. I don't know whether you've gotten White Knight over there. The other one they call White Knight. There's so many variations on them now that it's just, they're crazy. This one here once again, same plant as previously, but all of a sudden you'll get these small forms, and they seem to stay small. They don't get any larger. Alfonsoana, a Brazilian species, interesting plant, very, very similar to Chilotensis. Actually, if you put the pair together, you'd say they're the same plant. However, Alfonsoana was collected in Brazil, and Chilotensis was collected in Bolivia. And apparently well, when you look at them botanically, they look exactly the same. But as I say, the only difference in the description is in the filaments. The filaments are actually what they call plicated. You know, they're like a Z shape, and that's the only difference. It, you know, strikes me as a little bit funny, but yeah. I skipped one there. There was a Bulbosa. I'll just go back to see if I can get that for you. Yeah, it's just a big form of Bulbosa, some seed that was sent to me from a friend of ours who travels a lot, and he sent it to me from Belize. He collected it in an orange orchard there, and sent it over. And we've grown it on. That's probably 10, 15 year old, but it's starting to get some size into it now. Caminia, another one of the small Brazilian species. These are the ones I've actually starting to concentrate on now because, as I said, they're becoming rare. And from what I understand, from apparently they've been pretty well plundered and pillaged over the years, and they're just starting to disappear in the habit. That's Rushman's orange, a crocata, very, very orange form. If you have a look at the leaf on the top right, have a particular look at that, you can see in there the veins, and that is it's something that becomes more prominent in this as it gets older. The younger leaves don't have it, but as it gets older in this particular plant, the leaves get that really veined look. There's a rose among the Depianas.
That was taken a long time ago when I was probably about 10 kilos lighter.
You got, yeah, everybody's got the COVID.
The COVID kilos that get stacked on.
Oh, the Depianas.
We don't have a collection of Depianas like that anymore, but that was lovely. They've grown really well. I think we took out champion of show at one of the Australian conferences with one of those ones there.
That's Spadilla's diaguatensis. Yeah, it's a smaller form, isn't that right, Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's got a beautiful flower and a out of this world fragrance. Geminifloras. Once again, I tried growing this one in a pot. It grows really well. Grows extremely well in a pot, but it also grows. Yeah, it's more manageable, I find, to be mounted. I usually mount them on cork. Ooh.
Rosiflora.
Rosiflora, yeah. I've only just recently learnt with this one how to actually. I wasn't aware that you could actually. It wouldn't take its own pollen. I thought it would, but then I was informed by others that it doesn't. You have to have 2 clones.
Come from Peter Tristram.
Yeah, come from Pete Tristram. That's the PT on the tag there. But yeah, I've managed this year, I believe, to actually set using that method I was telling you before about, where you actually can trick it into actually taking its own pollen. You wait till the flower is you take the pollen when the actual flower opens and you store the pollen in the fridge. Then once that flower is starting to wane, it's starting to really wane, the people who told me about this say that the actual inhibitors in the stigma start to actually fade. And that's when you can put the pollen on and it will accept its own pollen. So that's what I did, and I've actually set seed on it this year. That's Caudwell. Got a lot of those in flower this year, so we'll be able to get some seed back to them on that. This is Merliana, comes from Paraguay, very similar to Diaguatensis, or some people even call it Diaguatensis large form, but it's got a beautiful, fragrant flower, very, very much like lemons, or even more lemony, and very attractive sort of flower too. Pardoi, I don't know whether there's much of that around. Is there much of that around over there, Andrew?
You do see it. No, you don't see much of it.
Yeah. I think we had it in Australia here as it was more like, what do they call it? Vaginata. Teniafolia vaginata. It was collected as, and I think Eric Guda recently, within the last 5-6 years, actually redescribed, and we found that vaginata has actually got blue petals, not white petals. And there was some consternation about the colour of the actual floral bracts. On these, they're red, or Eric says, no, they're not red, they're actually like a rosy colour. So they differentiate there. But nice plant and a nice flower. Polsii. That's Polsii on the left. And on the right is John Arden's Century, or Century. I had a lot of trouble with that. It took a long time for it to stabilise here in Australia, but once it did, it took off. This is a different form of subsecundifolia. I've got two forms of that. One that actually has this really orange bracts, and the other one has red floral bracts. I've got both in flower again this year. I've actually crossed them before, and we're still waiting on the progeny from that to flower. But I'll cross it again this year, and I've done it both ways just to see if there's any variation in it and where it comes from. John Arden's Silver Trinket. That's a beautiful thing. We're starting to get a few. It's very, very slow grow, very slow. The chiapensis in it, mate, I think brings that out, but it's going very, very well this year. And Sprengellianas, another one of the red Brazilians that's in jeopardy. So yeah, set a lot of seed on these guys and sent it back to Elton Leamy. And I don't know how much success he's had. I haven't heard from him for a while, but I'll get in touch with him again this year because we've got some more to send back. And that's a bit of a close-up of
Do you grow it over there in California, the Sprengellianas?
I don't have it myself, but I'm sure other people do.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have it.
We'll have to get some seed to you guys. Would you like some seed?
Sure.
Seed.
Yep. We'll send you some seed.
See you next century.
Yeah. No, they don't. They grow pretty quick. They really do.
We've got a lot of them, Andrew.
And you know, it's surprising because you put the seed down and in no time whatsoever, probably five years, and you'll have them flowering. So it's more about, you know, keeping the species going, because they're a beautiful little plant and they're reasonably easy to grow. So we can send some around. Have you got any, Lenny? Have you got some, Lynn? Oh, right. She's blocked. No worries.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up if you've got some. You want some? No?
All right.
Okay, now we've got John's legacy. 2010, John and I, or 2009 and 8, I spent a fair bit of time with John. We were just discussing different aspects we had and sharing knowledge on hybridizing and looking at why we chose different plants and whatever.
We used to stay with John too in
Yeah.
California when we went over. He was a wonderful man.
And he and Dan and Eloise used to put us up.
Remember
And-
the picnics that we used to have, Eloise?
Yeah, but
They're new.
he actually sent us a lot of seed.
Yes, they were a lot of fun. We missed those.
They were a lot of
Haven't seen you in a
fun.
long time.
This is concerto, which I think most of you guys probably have. These are a bunch of red ones that he sent me. It was a cross that he used a lot of Redondo beech in. And some of these, the actual pictures don't give you true indication, but they're very, very dark, deep red. And we're waiting on them to flower because I think he's used, I can't remember, charm. And this was the geniculata crossed with Ardnamore
Hmm.
seed he sent us. I only got one of these to actually survive, but it was worth the
And we're going to register that as
Lisa Joy.
Lisa Joy, but we'll always put an Arden's tag on that to know that people know that it was one of John's plants.
Don't see that here.
Yeah. That's basically it. We're starting to come into flower. That's the one that's actually behind us, I think. And this is the actual flower on it, the inflorescence. Grows to about 1 meter wide. These are some of he used Platinum across Fenestralis across Charles and F2. Everybody familiar with what F2s are? No?
A lot of people are muted. They probably do, but I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. This is the same plant, but crossed with Sweet Success. And then he's used it again, crossed it with Strawberry Delight. A lot of the colors in these are absolutely vivid. This one was with Charm. Now, we're hoping that we can get a colorful inflorescence out of this one.
It's a bit bleached out.
It's a bit bleached out in the foliage,
photo.
but the actual inflorescence we're hoping will be colorful. Because Charm, the one that he used, it and Charm too, were very, very good at it, very strong in the inflorescence. Another form of that same sort of cross with Mandy, Martian Red.
Some of his crosses were just so complex. So
Another form view of Martian Red. A lot of the Fenestralis comes out in that one. Sunburst crossed Hiro. That's going to be interesting too, because Sunburst is very, very strong. So whether the Hiro looks like it's hieroglyphic, it looks like it's taken over in the foliage, but maybe we'll luck it out with a colourful flower. But you can see there a lot of variation there.
that doesn't do it justice, that photo.
No.
It's a big plant. Look at the crosses. If you knew John, what he did to put into Redondo Beach and Malegra Negra and Grandiose, they're just such complex hybrids that unbelievable.
We've got to do the F2s, but we may run out of time, so we'll probably push some of these or pass some of these plants on to some of the new hybridists, the Virgia hybridists in Australia, and get them to do the F2s, because if they do, I'm pretty sure we're going to start to see a lot of actual foliage beriges with colourful inflorescences. I think he was that close to getting it.
Now the next one is exactly the same.
That's the
cross.
same cross as the previous one. You can see the variation that's coming out in the plants.
Yeah.
There's,
Oof.
that's his sweet success. He hasn't registered that either, I'm pretty sure. I've got to check that. But I don't know whether or maybe George, I'll check. I'm not too sure. Maybe George Tomatis might have registered it for him, but I'll check. It's another,
Cardinalis by Pepiana.
Mm.
yeah. We're hoping, we haven't seen an inflorescence on that yet, but. And this is our joy. This is one that it was come up in a batch of seedlings, Fostrianas that I grew. I used to grow a lot of Fostrianas for a nursery, and this one come up in them, and we registered that for the conference in 2019 as Charlotte Joy.
We also donated maybe even that one to conference for the rare plant auction, and I think it made 1,800 on auction. So we were really pleased with that went to the conference.
And that's it.